Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Theravada Buddhism series, Dhamma talk number 34. Beautiful consciousness. Sobhana Citta. Sobhana means beautiful, graceful, and pleasing. And Citta is consciousness. So, Sobhana Citta means beautiful consciousness. It arises with 2 good roots or 3 good roots. Do you remember roots? There are altogether 6 roots, hetu. 3 are unwholesome or evil, and another 3 are wholesome or good. And in this beautiful consciousness, 3 good roots are associated with it. And they are non-greed, alobha. Non-greed is not only the absence of greed or desire, but is accompanied by generosity, dana. When you say alobha, it means there is no greed, and also there is generosity. That means non-greed, one of the good roots. Adosa, non-anger. Same thing. It doesn't mean only the absence of anger, but is associated with loving kindness. That is non-anger or adosa. And the third one is amoha, non-delusion. Same thing, not simply just the absence of ignorance or delusion. It is associated with knowledge, insight, and wisdom. Those are the 3 good roots. And if a consciousness has 2 good roots, which are non-greed and non-anger, it is called Vipāka Citta. Consciousness with 2 roots. And if a consciousness is associated with 3 roots, it is called Vipāka Citta, meaning consciousness with 3 roots. These are the terminology you will come across quite often in the Dhamma talks and in the scripture. Having 2 or 3 beautiful roots, good roots, beautiful roots, one and the same, is the critical component for a consciousness to be called beautiful consciousness. And under the beautiful consciousness, you can find wholesome consciousness, also resultant consciousness, and also functional consciousness. Okay, you can call it subgroups under the beautiful consciousness. In other words, this beautiful consciousness includes every consciousness except 12 unwholesome consciousness and 18 rootless consciousness. Kusala Citta, 12 of them, and Vipāka Citta, 18 of them, altogether 30. Apart from the 30, all other consciousness has 2 roots or 3 roots, so they can be called Sobhana, beautiful. However, this beautiful consciousness mainly arises in the 11 sensuous realms, in the sense sphere. You can find in other places now and then, but mainly they arise in the sense sphere, sensuous realm. 11 sense sphere or sense realm are 4 woeful state, human, and 6 deva, if you remember correctly. However, some of that consciousness may occur in the minds of Brahma, of form sphere and formless sphere. Even though they arise mainly in the sense sphere, occasionally you may find in the mind of Brahma. Just like jhana consciousness, jhana's consciousness belongs to the Brahma realms, but they can arise in the mind of a yogi in a human realm, if that yogi has attained jhana. So these are little exceptions. Beautiful consciousness belongs to sensuous realm or sense sphere. As it belongs to the sensuous realm, it is called beautiful consciousness of sense sphere. In Pali, kāmāvacara Sobhana Citta. We'll come to that in the next talk in more detail. 24 beautiful consciousness in the sense sphere has 3 groups. They are beautiful, wholesome consciousness, 1 group, beautiful resultant consciousness, 2nd group, beautiful sensuous consciousness with roots, and then beautiful functional consciousness. Let's see a little bit on beautiful wholesome consciousness. Sobhana Kusala Citta. 8 beautiful wholesome consciousness are similar to the 8 great rooted consciousness. Do you remember the 8 great rooted consciousness from the unwholesome consciousness category? If you don't remember quite clearly, the storyline will remind you. There's a boy who saw an apple tree with lots of apples in a neighbor yard. Instantly, spontaneously, he wants to eat. So quickly, he ran to the next yard and stole the apple. Because of the whole setting, the boy was excited. That's a storyline. That storyline is the greed-rooted unwholesome consciousness, 8 of them, with the variations. So, this beautiful wholesome consciousness is similar to that 8 unwholesome greed-rooted consciousness. Of course, in here, non-greed, alobha, and insight, pinya, of the wholesome consciousness replace greed and wrong view of the unwholesome consciousness. So if you replace those two and the remaining the same, voila, you got the 8 beautiful wholesome consciousness. So in here is beautiful wholesome consciousness. Before it was simply beautiful consciousness, now is beautiful wholesome consciousness. And here we need to know what wholesome means with precision. Pali word is kusala. English, we use the word wholesome. So this word kusala has 4 different meanings or 4 different definitions. The first one said free of disease and healthy. What does it mean by that? Disease means evil, mental defilements. And healthy means full of generosity, loving kindness, and insight. So, if a consciousness is free from evil or mental defilements and infused with generosity or loving kindness or insight, it is kusala, wholesome. Second definition is faultless and blameless. It does not apply to finding faults by the non-enlightened person, putujana, because non-enlightened person, we are full of likes and dislikes, and our decisions are biased, and we always try to find fault one way or the other, blame in one style or the other. So, they are not included in this statement. What it is the seeing the fault, seeing an action is blameworthy by noble persons who have abandoned mental defilements. If a noble person see that as faulty and blameworthy, then it is akusala, and it is faultless and blameless, it is kusala. Second definition. The third one is, it is productive of beneficial result. Kusala produce desirable result, happy result, profitable result, beneficial result for all, for everyone, including yourself. That's the third definition. The fourth one is one word, skillful, kusala, skillful. Okay. But the word skillful, one can be skillful in good, and also one can be skillful in bad, evil. Oh, he is very skillful in cracking safety deposit box. He's skillful, expert, but to steal. So, skillful can mean both good and bad. So it's a very tricky word to use skillful for kusala. It's tricky. Most of the people just scan through a book or heard something without knowing in detail. They can misperceive the meaning of that word. So my teacher said, it is best to avoid using the word skillful as a translated word for kusala. So, I follow his instruction. So we use the word wholesome, and when we say wholesome, it covers the meaning of the first three definitions: free of disease and healthy, faultless and blameless, and produce beneficial result. Based on the context of the talk or action, it will apply to wholesome. So, wholesome, kusala, kusala, wholesome. So, let's move on to the next group. Beautiful resultant consciousness with roots. In Pali, Sahetuka. Vipāka Sobhana Citta. Sahetuka means with roots. Vipāka, resultant. Sobhana, beautiful. Citta, consciousness. Simple, straightforward. Beautiful, resultant consciousness with roots. These resultant consciousness, Vipāka Citta, simply resultant consciousness, Vipāka Citta, belongs to both rootless consciousness category as well as beautiful consciousness category. It is the result of the past life's karma. All resultant consciousness cannot produce new karma. Even though beautiful resultant consciousness are 2 or 3 good nature roots. In other words, they are incorporated with the beautiful qualities. They are born with the beautiful qualities. Beautiful resultant consciousness has 2 or 3 good natured quality roots. Therefore, it is named beautiful resultant consciousness with roots. To differentiate or distinguish from the other resultant consciousness from the ahetuka citta category. So you simply just put the prefix sahetuka with roots in front of the beautiful resultant consciousness. And the third one is beautiful functional consciousness. 8 beautiful functional consciousness are the same as the 8 beautiful wholesome consciousness. Beautiful, wholesome consciousness is action-oriented, karma-producing. Beautiful, functional consciousness does not produce karma, but they still are associated with actions. And they have no karma-producing power. And it arises only in Buddha, silent Buddhas, and Arahant. That is because these great individuals have no more ignorance and craving. They are free from tanha and avijja, craving and ignorance. These functional consciousness arises and they do the job what is necessary and they disappear, passed away, without leaving any residue or any trace of potential to produce new karma. That's beautiful functional consciousness. So this is an introduction to what Sobhana Citta is. Beautiful consciousness. May you be able to understand these consciousness, mental states or mental factors, and be able to bridge with your own practice along the journey towards Nibbana and sharpen your wisdom as soon as possible. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you very much.